Welcome to the Health and Wellness Show on your VOCM. Now, here's your host, Dr. Mike Wall.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Wall, and today we are going to talk about the value of being out in nature, both for our physical and mental health. We're here with Dr. T.A. Loeffler, who brings 30 years of expertise leading people through significant life-changing experiences in every facet of her work. T.A.'s work and adventures have taken her to 52 different countries in all 7 continents. She has completed 6 4/5 of the 7 summits and the highest peak on all 7 continents. In 2020, she was named to the 90 greatest Canadian explorers list by Canadian Geographic. Thanks for being here, T.A.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and with her we have Dr. Hassan Khalili, who was born and raised in Iran, where he earned his BA and did 2 years of military service. He then went on to get his master's degrees, and I say degrees because he has an MBA and MSc, and his PhD in Kansas and Iowa in the U.S. in the 70s, and has since worked in the U.S. and Newfoundland for over 40 years, where he's the founder of Kalili Associates Counseling here in St. John's. He's traveled all over the world as well, and we're going to hear about those adventures today. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Kalili.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Well, let's get to it, guys. Maybe you guys can start off by telling us a bit about yourselves, because you're both so extremely interesting, your jobs, and what you do each day, and maybe we'll start with you, T.A., and then we'll scoot over to Dr. Kalili.
All right. Well, I am a professor at Memorial University of Newfoundland and Labrador in the School of Human Kinetics and Recreation, and I have the great privilege of being an outdoor recreation and education specialist. So going outside is both my avocation and my vocation. So I teach a lot of courses that help future teachers and future recreation professionals know the value of the outdoors.
Right on. Yeah, you're famous for one line I always quote from you is talking about vitamin N, vitamin nature. We're going to talk about that today, I think. And what about you, Dr. Kalili? Run us through your typical day.
Which one you want to know? Because I've been had a couple of professions, but I grew up in a farm, and so we started walking then. Then I was a dreamer, so I dreamed I had bucket list when I was 10 years old. The reason I'm saying that because I wanted to have turned me to become a psychologist. I end up in the States. I wanted to do an MBA to do import-export, but I end up to go back to my profession being a psychologist. I moved to St. John's in 85. And I was senior psychologist with Waterford Hospital, and I became director for about 7-8 years, and then I went to full-time private practice. But we have a general psychological practice. I've been operating over almost 30 years.
Wow. Well, lots of experience there. Well, and I think that one of the reasons I wanted you guys to both be on the show is that you've had some pretty amazing adventures. When we say 6 4/5 of the 7 summits, T.A., tell us a bit about some of the things you've done that got you on the list of explorers.
Well, yes, I made a goal of trying to climb the 7 summits, and other than Everest, who's playing a little hard to get, that took me to every single continent to stand on the highest points, and along with that, journey to 30 different countries trying to reach their highest points, of which 20 I got to see the view from there. And then also I'm a big fan of traversing landscapes, so skied across Greenland and have done now 6 expeditions in Labrador. I love visiting the Labrador portion of Newfoundland and Labrador, and definitely lots of explorations here close to town. And one of our greatest trips was in 2018. We spent the summer paddling from Jasper, Alberta to Tuktoyaktuk on the Arctic Ocean. So it was lovely to be outside for that full 3-month period.
Wow. Sounds pretty boring. I mean, that's exciting stuff. Yeah. And Dr. Kalili, you're no stranger to adventure as well. You've done some pretty wild trips. Tell us a few of those yourself.
Well, I was not a climber like TA, and I love walking, and I love walking in nature. So when I was a kid, I used to go, because our farm was in the middle of desert, we used to go overnight because the day was hot. So we go from one point from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. But I was dreamer. I had Kilimanjaro in my head. I had Antarctica in my head. I had the Silk Road in my head. I have, and a few other things came to my attention later on. When I saw the snow of Kilimanjaro, I was probably 10 or 12 years old, and at that time I wanted to go to the mountain. It took me about maybe 50 years later, when I was 62, I ended up climbing in 2010.
Wow!
But before that, I was privileged to go to Peru, to Machu Picchu, and that was beautiful spot, and especially in the rainforest. And in 2012, my body we decided to go to Antarctica, and it was an interesting, very interesting trip. I never forget when I was on top of one of the mountain in Antarctic. It was not really a mountain; it was a big hill. It took me about an hour to get top of it. It was all the snow and water, and I was sitting alone for maybe 10 minutes, and I was thanking God for allowing me to be able to do that. And all of a sudden, I hear Sandy Gibbon, one of my buddies from here, who is the architect. I hear him, life is good, ain't it? And he was broke that time, I enjoyed that trip tremendously, but I don't go back because there's nothing else to do. And I did also, took us 34 days by myself and John Abbott, who is now candidate for Liberal Party. We did a Camino in Santiago, from bottom of France to west of Spain. And that was probably the longest one we have done. It took us 34 days to get to the whole trip. So there are many of these things, but the most enjoyed I did, because I grew up with dreaming going to Silk Road, which is in Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. I loved that every minute of it.
Right. Yeah, I just saw a show with Marco Polo about the Silk Road actually on TV. Pretty, I think it's a bit far-fetched, but okay. So you had sort of a real eye-opening experience when you were out in nature. TA, what do you see when you look over these amazing vistas from on top of a mountain? Like what does that do for you?
I think it reminds me of my place in the world. Sometimes I often feel very small when I'm out in the out seeing those amazing landscapes, but I also feel very big. I get in touch with the vastness of our world and often return with a sense of huge amount of possibility. And what's interesting is I was thinking about this yesterday as I was out for a ski up in Pippi Park, that for me, sometimes I get it in those amazing big landscapes like Antarctica, and sometimes I get it in the back of Pippi Park. So there's also a sense of renewal and possibility. And sometimes I just like to look at the blue sky, and it kind of brings a sense of hope. And it's definitely a huge part of stress reduction for me.
Right. I mean, it plays a big part in our wellness and day-to-day, and I guess that sort of brings us to one of the major topics that we're hitting a lot these days, we're hearing so much about, is what's going on with this coronavirus pandemic. People are feeling stressed. There's a lot of anxiety. There's financial anxiety. There's uncertainty about the future, what's going to happen. Dr. Kalili, you're experiencing this on a day-to-day basis with your profession and population. What are the big things that you're hearing people talk about when they come to see you?
Well, this is strange because none of us waiting for this to happen, but we're not prepared. Okay. And so all kind of weirdness come out of this situation that we are in. Now, I personally believe that we are going to 4 stages of anything, something like this happen. We go to 4 stages. Stage 1, stage of unbelievable. It's not real. It doesn't look real. It's like a passable thing. Then stage 2 is, well, all this weirdness, all these feelings comes out like feeling fear, feeling getting infected, getting sickness, and I hear from my patient that they have feel that it's the worst case scenario, and a lot of people told me their routine is goofed up, they're locked in, they feel like prisoner, and some people adjust to it, some people don't. So anyway, but stage 3 is a stage of adjustment. Some of us, we already moved to this stage, but some of them are still struggling with stage 2. Then in stage 4, which is probably we get it sometime in May, will be we find ways to do something about it. So most people, when they feel weird, feel off, you're not alone. We are all in together, and this is typical of being in a situation like this. And then the possibility for us is to or the tendency for us is to look for reassurance, because we don't know what's next. What's next? Everybody, and even when they do briefing, they keep talking about we don't know, more uncertainty. And
right.
So the idea is we learn through this process that we become our tolerance for uncertainty become better, and then we start become creative ways of to do things. And if somebody was calling me yesterday that they couldn't find they want to make bread but couldn't find what you call it, add into the
flour
dough.
Yeah, flour.
They couldn't find any because everybody's not baking. So,
right.
So everybody is going to gain few pounds. So this is all of us we are to do. So this is a strange time we are in it. But my point is also this is a good place to develop your spirit, because now you have time to self-reflect. And what I suggest to people, to my patient, is a good time to take on what's right with you inventory. So you start every day, sit down and write down what's right with me physically, professionally, mentally, personally, and add to it. And also make a game with other family members. For example, today's mom term. Everybody finds something right with mom. I sit down and tell mom. Tomorrow at that time. It's a game that I think that is a time that we can get rid of, flash some of the emotional fat we had all of our past life. We can get rid of it. But I encourage people. To get out and walk. It's important, especially when you go to the street and people zigzagging around you. It's okay but it's still good to go out, even in your yard, be near a tree, walk, whatever you can do.
That's a good start. We're going to talk a lot about that stage 4, about creativity, how people can start to expand during this period of time. We're going to take a little break, but we'll be right back with Dr. Hassan Khalili, clinical psychologist, and Dr. T.A. Loeffler, explorer and professor.
The Health and Wellness Show will be right back on your VOCM. Now back to Dr. Mike Wall. This is the Health and Wellness Show on your VOCM.
Welcome back. We're here with Dr. Hassan Khalili, clinical psychologist, and Dr. T.A. Loeffler, explorer and professor. Before the break, we were talking about some of the mental health aspects of what's happening now with the coronavirus pandemic. But let's dig a little bit deeper into the physical side of things. What are people struggling with on the physical side now, T.A.?
Well, I think a lot of folks have been cut off from their usual ways of being physically active, especially folks that have a strong connection with working out in a gym or working out, doing physical activity in classes. So some of those aren't accessible right now. Some people might not be able to use the equipment they're used to using and things. So yes, just like Dr. Kalili said, that some people have had to be very creative. If you're used to working out with heavy weight at a gym and you're suddenly at home without access to that, some folks have had to find jugs of water, and some folks have had to find some tires to use and things like that. So there's had to be some creativity. Also, perhaps setting up space inside one's house to do that kind of physical activity. There was someone pointed out an example of someone waiting to go out on a Canadian Navy ship who ran an entire marathon inside her hotel room. So definitely some creativity there. And I think also some folks have then taken to the out of doors. So yes, going for a walk every day, incredible for both mental and physical wellness. The runners probably in some ways had an easier time, just transitioned into running with physical distancing. They're used to being outside and moving along. Other folks have had to make bigger shifts. Also sorting out how to fit that into your new routine. A lot of times physical activity works really well when we have a routine thing. Some folks get up and go out right to the gym in the morning. Others go, after work. But when we're working at home at our computers, when is after work? So needing to create some of those new routines and fitting it in. For me personally, we've been using get up, have a little bit of coffee, do work for 3 hours, and then the midday when it's warmest and sunniest, we've been heading out for a walk or a ski or a hike, and made that a routine so that we don't miss it when we get too engaged in work. So I think it's taken some creativity, some jigging of routines, and for some folks they made that transition pretty seamlessly, and other folks are probably still working to try to find that physical activity in their days.
It's funny, I Skype with my workout partner every single morning. We've been able to makeshift our equipment. It almost seems normal. We never miss workouts anymore because we don't have to drive anywhere. It's ironic. Our schedule's a little better, and the workouts are actually a little bit more creative, a bit more fun. Outdoors. Newfoundland is so fortunate. I think about it all the time. People live in big concrete skyscrapers in larger cities that might not have the access that we have, where we can go for a walk, in nature in minutes. What's the value of being out in nature when we're getting our activity?
Well, we in my business, we sometimes call it vitamin N or vitamin nature. And as I'm sure we'll drop little nuggets throughout the show, that research over and over again around the world has shown that access time to fresh air, to the open sky, and to plants and trees is really good for both our physical and mental health. So I think, at least for those of us that live here in St. John's, what I appreciate is the Grand Concourse, these greenways that we have access to. We have the East Coast Trail, which has different access points. And maybe at some point we'll have our city parks back, and then out over the overpass, then people are surrounded by all of their near nature. And I often think about there being near nature, mid nature, and far nature. So our near nature is our nature that's like, if I look around here, I see green plants that we keep all year round inside to help with our spirits. I'm growing some sprouts. That's near nature. Having pictures and imagery of nature is near nature. Then we have that mid nature. That's what's the nature in our neighborhood. So what I see too is people exploring some of the near nature around themselves, the Grand Concourse, their local little hidey hole trails. I mean, there's all these wonderful footpaths that were used for centuries here. So people are going out. I'm seeing families out on bikes. I'm seeing families go for walks together. So I think again, I said the other day, it's like with the absence of our usual activities like youth sports and youth art and things like that, families are probably doing some more outdoor recreation together. And I wondered when things start to relax, what families will decide about that. Is that something that was missing from how they did their days together when they were very probably quite scheduled for some families? So I think it's a time for exploration, a time to look around your neighborhood for those parts of nature and different ways to be physically active, and maybe learn some new ways to be physically active. I think some of the research shows us that those of us that have lots of different leisure activities, lots of different recreation activities, physical activities, when we have sort of a repertoire, we can cope with when one avenue gets blocked, we can go down a different avenue. So I think it is a chance to try some new things.
Yeah, it makes me really happy to see the people walking outside, people jogging and skateboarding and biking, whatever they're doing. And this is a whole area of psychology too. I read a stat, and I'll throw this one over to you, Dr. Kalili, but never before have we been so far away from merging with the natural world that they say that by 2050, 66% of the world's population is projected to live in cities, and that the typical American spends 93% of his or her time inside. And there's a Japanese term called Shinrin Yoku, which means forest bathing. Dr. Kalili, tell us about some of the health benefits that have actually been shown psychologically and physically by being out in nature.
I really like the way TA talk about the near nature, mid nature, and nature. What you said, a beautiful way of explaining. If somebody has seen my office, I have near nature. I have a bunch of plants in my office full of flowers, and the reason for that is because of the profession I'm in. I hear a lot of stress and drama, and I believe water, trees, and nature would reduce my anxiety, it's pull all of my stress out of me. So when we are in nature, especially mid-nature, in nature, what we call it, is reduce our anxiety, create a lot of endorphin, and lower our depression, make us happier. And have seen it, people have done it. Clear our mind. We do less ruminate. People who know the word rumination, I mean, many thoughts and feelings go round. And then when we are in nature, the trees and the nature, the air, whatever it is, the water, the smell, the birds, and all of this made us pull our mind deeper. Subconscious mind goes completely into it. And within 10 to 15 minutes, you feel you're relaxed. You disconnect with technology. You become more creative, of being with our creators, and most people notice that. One of the things that I noticed is mind and body connection. Mm-hmm. I know when, for example, I'm stressed, when I'm angry, and when we go to nature, you can allow that part of your mind to do this differently. I was talking to a couple of my hiking buddies, and I asked them the question, "What does it for you?" These are what they said to me. I wrote it down. Release pressure from work and home when we go outdoor, when we go in nature. Yeah. Take natural environment, and it goes directly to subconscious. Very true. It's a bigger and beautiful natural space, and I don't need to deal with any problem. The other person said, if physically make me able, it give me confidence, and we bond, especially we go with friends, it bond us together. One of the things I always say to people, probably other people hear me, there's two words I use. One is acknowledge and validate. A lot of times acknowledging, especially in this pandemic time, that acknowledging that what we are experiencing, but not letting the negativity take over.
Well, that is a good point. Let's continue with that right after this break. We got to jump to a quick breather, but when we come back, we're going to pick up right on that, because I think negativity is something that we could really easily get caught into right now. We're going to jump to a break, but we're here with Dr. Hassan Khalili, clinical psychologist, and Dr. T.A. Loeffler, explorer and professor.
The Health and Wellness Show will be right back on your VOCM. Now back to Dr. Mike Wall. This is the Health and Wellness Show on your VOCM.
Welcome back. We're here with Dr. T.A. Loeffler, explorer and professor, and Dr. Hassan Khalili, clinical psychologist. Right before the break, Dr. Khalili, we were talking about negativity and how nature can help sort of reduce that negativity in our day-to-day. Let's just continue where we started off and tell us a little bit more about that.
You know, when we are, our brain, especially subconscious brain, filled up with problems and past problems and worry for the future and all of these things, then our body keep getting 911 calls. So my body get tensed up, and that's the reason a lot of we start eating junk food. We start eating booze, drinking booze in order to go to calmer state. So we're all looking for that calmer state. When we go to nature, whatever it is in trees and in nature, in land, in birds and in the air, whatever it is, we pull those negative energy out of us. Probably you heard. I heard this before. Nature deficit disorder.
Huh. That's a good one.
Because a lot of people have nature deficit disorder, and this is similar to, because if you clogged up, we needed liquid Drano to pull all this negativity out of our system. Nature is liquid Drano. Make us, when we go to nature, especially if you smell it, if you allow and sometimes you look at a little child or little sleeping, how soundly asleep. You look at a bird, how soundly they play, because they don't have negativity in them. Negativity is a learned behavior and the people who are negative, they think they're pessimists, they think they are realists. They are not realists. They are just negative. And especially nowadays, we hear more negativity in technology, and the TV media added to it. Acknowledge that we are all victim of this, but don't validate them. Instead, use any possibility to make it better.
So exactly, I'm a huge believer in that. I mean, every time I have a bad day, I'll the first thing to do is try and get out and get close to the ocean, somewhere just outside of town or somewhere in the woods, even a trail close by my house. TA, if somebody is going to go and get some physical activity, what are some things they should keep in mind to prep themselves to get the most out of it?
Well, especially now, we need to be thinking a little bit about where we're going to go for that physical activity. There's some places that are closed and some places that are open, because we don't necessarily want to expose anyone unnecessarily to the virus. Being prepared out there, so having our 10 essentials, having water, sunscreen, not too soon, but at some point in summer, some bug dope, good quality footwear, so that we're prepared for the rigors of being outside, especially if we're going, further afield on the East Coast Trail. Always good to take it a bit slow at the beginning, get that warm up going, get your blood pumping, not just go from zero, sitting in front of the screen to like full on. So take your usual kind of warm up thing. And then finding the kind of physical activity that matches what you need for that particular day. Some days we need a saunter and making sure that we are stopping to smell the flowers, getting out in the forest. They actually did an interesting study, and if you're able to get near trees, within 5 minutes your stress hormone cortisol drops. I would say whether you believe in trees or not, they did actual blood studies of having to just go hang out with trees. The trees are giving off pheromones. They are giving off scents that we pick up, and it drops our cortisol to be out in them. So sometimes I'll be out and specifically want to be out in the forest, so take a forest trail. Other times I need to see the ocean, and that connection to Blue Mind. Blue Mind being that we'll pay a premium to have a property on the waterfront, either as a hotel room or as a place to live. And there is a way in which being beside water is very calming, sitting and listening to waves, seeing the stillness or the reflection in the water. So sometimes I'll go near the water. We have these different elements in nature. We have the sky, we have water, we have forest and plants, and we have gardens. The other thing that's sort of missing from store shelves right now, besides yeast and toilet paper, is seeds. People are going back to baking, and they're going back to growing things. And the gardening literature is full of many ways that gardening is so good for our physical and mental health. So I think, as usual, being prepared to be outside, always take that rain layer, always have something to put on, a warm layer, and think about how can I definitely keep myself and my family safe when I'm out there.
That's good. And I know they can trust you. That's the course you teach a lot of the time. That's the course everybody wants to get in with T.A. Loeffler at the university, is going out in the woods and learning how to survive out there. Dr. Kalili, on the mental health side of things, are there any tips you would recommend people to get the most out of their outdoor activities?
I think the word is permission.
Okay.
If you permit yourself, allow, as Dr. T.A. said, is allow the trees to take things away from you. Allow that you actually see them, you actually breathe them, actually close your eyes and permit yourself to get away from the negativity. And brain have a tendency to learn from you. If you tell them, people who live next to airport do not hear the noise that much because they told their brain not to do it. Mm-hmm. So when we go to nature, some people say, just only worry for maybe the animal attacking them, versus allow themselves, even by the tree, by the water, by whatever nature is, even sitting with the pets. Our spirits is connected to nature. So
right.
People who are spiritual, they use nature. Our Indian population, they keep talking about it. And most of the literature says forest itself is a therapist. Nature itself is a therapist. You don't have to do anything. You just wait for them to do it. But permit yourself to be there. And then, to me, you need about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours a week of nature. Some of the studies that I have seen, the people who have done more nature, they are generally healthier. I'm pretty soon be 72 years old. I'm compared to my friends, my classmates. I'm healthier because I love to go and let nature take my disease away.
Right. Well, yes, and I think that does keep us young. My grandfather was a river guide and spent a good chunk of his life on the river and hunting and fishing. We've got about a little bit of time, just a tiny bit of time before the break, but TA, maybe you could suggest just a couple of websites people could look at just for some resources.
Yeah, so I've been preparing to teach my outdoor ed class online, so I've been looking around for a few, and Mountain Equipment Co-op has quite a lovely selection of introductory training videos, as does the Recreational Equipment Incorporated, REI. The national parks have on their website also some great videos on how to begin to go outdoors. So those are three that I'm sending my students to get a sense of what equipment might I need, what are some options, and some source of really good quality information.
That's amazing. Well, we're going to jump to a break. I'm here with Dr. T.A. Loeffler, explorer and professor, and Dr. Hassan Khalili, clinical psychologist. We'll be right back after this break.
The Health and Wellness Show will be right back on your VOCM. Now back to Dr. Mike Wall. This is the Health and Wellness Show on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. We're here with Dr. Hassan Khalili, clinical psychologist, and Dr. T.A. Loeffler, explorer and professor. One thing we haven't touched on yet, Dr. Khalili, is spirituality and how this pandemic offers an opportunity to expand that. What are your thoughts on how spirituality plays a part right now?
You're asking me that question.
Yes.
Yeah. I believe the main part of spirituality is nature, and if you learn how to communicate with nature, don't destroy it. Clean it up. Make sure that we have friendly relationship with the birds, with the trees, with every single in the spirituality. That's give us some spirituality exercises. To me, life, when we go to this kind of thing, this is where our spirits come. It's not prayer. Is believe that there is something good come out of this. Now we can see not to see something good out of it, or too negatively, but spiritually everything is good. Nothing bad is going to happen. There is heaven someplace. whatever we talk about heaven, not the one the religion talk about, is the way the spirit say that we are all good, we are all in it, we are all go to some place nice. These are the time that we develop that we can. It's a school that we are learning through that school to be better, to let go of the garbage of the past. And love is stronger than fear.
And I think that, we're seeing that. We're seeing, on the nature side of things, we're seeing the world heal a little bit in this period of time. We know that there's huge shifts for environmental change, and people are starting to recognize their place in nature as well. And, taking that time when we've got it, finally to slow down a little bit and get out in nature and do some thinking about things that we might not, give the attention to. TA, what's your view on all that?
It's definitely, getting outside, and especially when I've been out on expeditions for, a bit longer than, just a couple hours during each day, I have that deeper connection to the spiritual side of myself. And I often sort of definitely slow down even further the longer I've been out. When I did a study a few years ago about folks over the age of 50 that still are able and choosing to go out on long expeditions. And one of the things they told me was sort of like, what happens when you get out past that first portage, i.e. when you get to where people can't access things easily, and that kind of coming down and getting in touch with yourself, and also getting in touch with this beautiful nature that surrounds us. So I think getting outside gives us a couple things. It gives us all the things we've already talked about. It gives us that meditative movement. I know at one point I was talking with my meditation instructor, and I was saying, I just can't get to my meditation cushion. I just can't sit on it. And he said, it's okay, TA. You meditate every time you go outside, every time you hike, every time you run. So I think you get those similar benefits to an actual practice of meditation when we get outside. So I think that also gives folks that deeper spiritual connection.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And that's the thing. So if we can disconnect, I remember I actually did the Inca Trail as well, and I was completely disconnected from everything, and I was up at this pass, and it was so high up there was no chance of a satellite signal, nothing was up there, and it was a feeling of freedom. I felt like I didn't have to respond to anything in the world back home, and it allowed me to sort of relax a lot more. And I think that that's something people could probably think about doing when they go in nature instead of trying to get that amazing shot. Maybe bring a camera, but maybe not a cell phone that's connected, where people can still stay linked to the rest of the world. There's going to be some things that change, and there's going to be some things that go right back to the way they were. But TA, where do you think communities can take advantage of this when it comes to addressing physical and mental health coming out of coronavirus?
Well, I think one of the things we're seeing in communities right now is the need and necessity for outdoor recreation spaces. So for trails, trailways, green spaces, parks, community gardens. And I'm hoping that coming out of this, that along with supporting our usual wonderful indoor recreation, that municipalities can continue, and many do, to look for opportunities in their municipality to have that near and especially that mid-nature, places that you can get to easily, that aren't long drives, that you can go for a safe walk, a safe run, a safe roll with a stroller, or someone who uses a wheelchair has a place to actually get out and access many of these things those of us that don't have mobility disabilities take for granted. So looking at ways to increase access for everyone to the out of doors, and that access means sometimes being in our neighborhoods, and also access also means having places with surfaces that work well for rolling and slope and width and things. So I'm hoping that out of this becomes a renewed commitment to those outdoor recreation spaces.
Yeah. And Dr. Kalili, on the same side, mental health coming to the forefront, what do you think the communities can develop or continue to evolve as a result of this on the mental health side?
I think that because we are isolated, we become closer to our loved one. But the most important one, we become closer to ourselves. Our relationship with ourselves needs to improve. It's a good time to seek inside of us and say, what have to let go? What kind of, as I said, what type of mental fat I have from past, I have to let go. And this is a good time. To me, is not so much about learning to be good to you because you're about yourself and be able to enjoy your company. Nature does that for you when you're with it because you become complete with it. So you learn to be good to you during this process. Learn not to be negative. Learn to be more realistic and more positive. The spirituality is someplace between there.
Right. And sometimes getting through something as difficult as this is a great way to let yourself know that maybe you overestimated the negative effect of it, even though it is a rough time. Let me ask. I'm going to have a little bit of fun here, guys. I'm going to ask 4 questions. Let's start with you, Dr. Kalili. We're going to go rapid fire here, and I'm going to ask you 4 questions, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. What is your favorite hike here in Newfoundland?
The one that from Portugal called, not Portugal, but Puchco to Flat Rock.
Right on.
I love that one.
That's a beautiful hike. I know that one well. Well, what's your favorite place you've ever visited for adventure tourism so people get ideas when they can travel again?
Outside of our country, I said it before. I said that I have many seen, but the most loving place I have seen was Silk Road.
Awesome. What's your favorite season to get outside?
All season, especially spring.
Very diplomatic to the seasons there. Okay, good. And your favorite view in Newfoundland and Labrador? From the other side of Grossmorn, when we did the Long Range Traverse, look from the other side, seeing Grossmorn. It's gorgeous. All right. Good answers. Good answers, people listening. Okay. TA, you, favorite hike?
The one I'm on.
The one you're on right now. Good answer. Very spiritual. Best place for adventure tourism you visited?
Both have NL, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Nepal.
All right. Favorite season to get outside?
Winter, because I can go so many places because the bogs don't slow me down.
That is true. Favorite view in Newfoundland and Labrador?
The view from Brock's Head Falls, which is on the East Coast Trail between Portugal Cove and Balleen. You can sit with a waterfall to your left, the sunset in front of you, and you get a beautiful view of Bell Island.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, guys, we are running out of time. This went really fast. I think there was some really great information there for everybody that was listening about how they can get outside and improve their physical and mental health. So thank you both very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join me today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, guys, that was today's show on the value of nature for our physical and mental health. I was here with Dr. T.A. Loeffler, explorer and professor, and Dr. Hassan Khalili, clinical psychologist. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here same time next week.